Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Parul Sharma. I'm professor and head Department of Psychiatry, Maharishi Markandeshwar Medical College, Kumarhati, Solan. Today, I'm going to present a lecture on migraine and the role of a psychiatrist. So I'm going to share my screen. So I'll be dealing with migraine, and as it is a disorder which is common and a disabling disease of the nervous system. And the burden of the migraine is greatest for the most severely affected patients. Despite the improvements, migraine remains underdiagnosed, and barriers are there to the care of the migraine. And currently, 36 million people with migraine aged 12 and above are there in US, and 27 million of them are females, 9 million males. And the burden is so much that almost nearly 1 in 4 households has at least one person with migraine. Global Burden of Disease study in 2010 ranked it as the third most prevalent disorder in the world. And in 2015, it was ranked as the third highest cause of disability worldwide in both males and females. In females, the rate is almost double. It is 18%, it is more than double, and male it is 6%. And 11% starts commonly between the age groups of 15 and 24. As you can see in this slide, it is even more common than medical disorders like asthma and diabetes. 1 year prevalence rates of the common migraine disorders has been shown in this slide. So migraine is episodic tension type headache is even more than migraine, and chronic daily headache also accounts for some of the percentage. So these are the three types of headaches which usually needs to be differentially diagnosed in a OPD, sitting in an OPD, and I will be dealing with these three types. Age prevalence or age distribution, if you see, is maximum 25 to 55 years of age. In females, as you can see, is more than the males. So in 2018, the ICHT revised its criteria, and the latest diagnostic guidelines, ICHT 3 beta diagnostic criteria, I have given. And I think to go in detail of each and every variety will take a very long period of time. So we'll go on towards the main thing we are dealing with, the migraine, with aura, without aura, and tension type headache, cluster headache, which we mostly as a psychiatrist we have to differentiate and we have to manage. So what are the causes of migraine if we go into that? Migraine is believed to be due to a mixture of environmental as well as genetic factors, and a number of psychological conditions are also associated with it. Anxiety disorders, bipolar disorders, simple stress also. Some genetically inherited types are like the familial hemiplegic migraine, which is inherited in the autosomal dominant fashion. So migraine as it is, mostly it is presents with severe to extremely severe variety. As you can see in the percentage, 47.2% present with severe and 33.2% with extremely severe symptoms. Then what are the triggers of migraine? There are mainly three types of triggers. The physiological aspects, which I've already told you, some stress factors, even substance abuse, some hormonal changes in females, menarche, OCPs, pregnancy itself is different, but there is an intermittent interruption of estrogen, it is predisposing towards migraine. And perimenopausal and menopausal state, dietary aspects, some foods trigger migraine, smoking and alcoholic beverages also trigger, environmental factors like the lighting, the changes in the temperature, sudden changes in humidity also precipitate it. As far as the pathophysiology is concerned, to describe it briefly, you can say It was initially a vascular theory, but nowadays what we defined it as is a neurovascular theory. That is not only the vascular component, the neurologic component. That is, there is a brainstem neurological hyperexcitability, especially hypothalamus activation, leading on to cortical spreading depression from the posterior side of the brain towards the anterior side. And then there is a release of you can say a neurological, these chemicals, neurochemicals, serotonin, CGRP, norepinephrine, dopamine, GABA, etc. And on this modality, only the newer modes of treatment, they are now based on that. And there is a ultimately activation of trigeminal activation. That is the one which causes the pulsating and the throbbing type of headache characteristic of migraine. So it is a neurovascular pain syndrome, neurogenic plasma protein extravasation, neuropeptide, which I have told you, they are released. There is a central neural processing and referred pain from dura mater and blood vessels. This is the cortical spreading depression, trigeminal vascular activation. So signs and symptoms, typically you can say it is a kind of a chronic disease with exacerbations or episodic exacerbations, which without treatment tend to progress toward in intensity with the time. So if otherwise the episodes, they are self-limited and they are recurrent and are associated with some autonomic symptoms. 15 to 30% of people with migraine experience migraine with aura. And there are 4 phases of migraine. So it is it is necessary to recognize the uh, genesis, how it starts, like prodrome, which occurs hours or days before the headache, the aura phase, which immediately precedes the headache, and then the pain phase, which is known as the headache phase, and after that comes the post-drome phase. So prodrome is occurring in about 60% of the patients, and symptoms include altered mood, irritability, depression or euphoria, craving for some foods. There can be constipation, diarrhea, sensitivity to some smells. And then comes even yawning is seen in many of the patients and fluid retention. And aura phase, it is a transient focal neurological phenomena that occurs in this phase. Symptoms can be visual, sensory, or motor. And visual effects occur most frequently in 99% of the cases. More than 50% are not accompanied by sensory or motor effects. There is usually a scintillating scotoma. You can say it is an area of partial alteration in the field which flickers, interferes with a person's ability to read or drive. It is a type of a negative scotoma. Like there's a blank space which is seen by the patient, which I will show in the next slides. The pain phase is the one which is the peak of the headache, in which the headache peaks and it is unilateral, mostly throbbing, moderate to severe, comes on gradually, aggravated. 4 to 72 hours usually is the period of time. In children, it can occur less than 1 hour and is usually accompanied by nausea, vomiting, sensitivity to light, sound, and there can be also osmophobia which occurs with it. Post-drome is the phase which occurs after the end of the uh, pain phase, and it is defined as a constellation of symptoms which occur after the acute headache has settled. And person feels tired or hungover, may have some GI disturbance, mood changes which occur after that. So this is the phases which I have shown you. The normal phase, the prodrome, aura, headache, when the peak of the symptoms occurs, and the prodrome, where there's some limited symptoms. After that, return to baseline occurs. So these are some of the negative scotoma which I have shown you. So if we classify headache, headache is classified into primary and secondary types. Primary is the one where there is no structural metabolic abnormality. So it includes migraine, tension type headache, cluster headache, and other primary headaches. Secondary includes those which have some metabolic abnormalities, like some extracranial, sinusitis, otitis media, etc., subarachnoid hemorrhage, vasculitis, dissection, central vein thrombosis, etc. Some metabolic disorders like carbon dioxide retention or carbon monoxide poisoning, etc. So I will not go into so much detail, but this is the classification of the given by ICH3 third edition. 1.1 denotes migraine without aura. 1.2 denotes migraine with aura. And then there are subcategories with typical aura, typical aura with headache. There's different varieties which are there. Then tension type headache, again, that is again divided into different types. Infrequent episodic tension type, infrequent episodic associated with pericranial tenderness, infrequent episodic tension type not associated with pericranial tenderness, etc. Then cluster trigeminal autonomic cephalgias, three category, 3.1 cluster headache, episodic cluster, chronic cluster. This is the way it is again classified. There is one of them is SUNCT, that is short lasting unilateral neuralgiform headache attacks with subconjunctival injection and tearing. So major forms of classification you can say which have changed in the recent classification is that migraine without aura was earlier called as the common migraine, which is now we call as migraine without aura, and the classical migraine, which is migraine with aura, which was earlier known as the classical migraine. Then there are migraine variants and complicated migraines, then hemiplegic migraine, and earlier basilar migraine used to be used, which now we call as the migraine with brainstem aura. What are the criteria? So main criteria I will just delineate. A, migraine without aura, at least 5 attacks fulfilling criteria B and D, B to D. Criteria B is headache attacks lasting 4 to 72 hours unprovoked. And C is headache has more than equal to 2 of the following characteristics. 4 out of these 4, 2 should be there. Unilateral, pulsating, moderate to severe, aggravation by routine physical activity. So out of these 4, any 2. And criteria D is during headache more than equal to 1 of the following: nausea or vomiting, or photophobia and phonophobia. And of course, the last point, that is there should not be any other neurological disorder. And this is again the same thing, but in children it can be less than 4 hours also duration. So, and of course, other neurologic things should be excluded. And migraine with aura, that can be 1.2.1, that is typical aura with migraine headache, 1.2.2, that is typical aura with non-migraine headache. These are the varieties of the migraine with aura. At least 2 attacks fulfilling criteria B, migraine aura fulfilling criteria B and C for each of the subforms. Typical aura with migraine, most migraine auras are associated with headache fulfilling criteria above. Typical aura with non-migraine headache, typical aura without headache. This at least 2 attacks fulfilling criteria B to D. Aura consisting of more than equal to 1 of the following, but no motor weakness. Out of the 3, 1 or more than 1 should be there. That is fully reversible visual symptoms, including positive and or negative features. Fully reversible sensory symptoms, including positive or negative features, or fully reversible dysphasic speech disturbances. Any one of the 3. At least typical aura with migraine headache, at least 2 of the following: homonymous visual symptoms or unilateral sensory symptoms. At least 1 aura symptom develops gradually over more than equal to 5 minutes, or different aura symptoms occur in succession over more than equal to 5 minutes. Each symptom lasts more than 5 but less than 60 minutes. And one is an abdominal migraine, with it's mostly seen in children, where there is no headache, but abdominal nausea, vomiting, and abdominal symptoms are just the presenting complaints. These are the complications of migraine, that is chronic migraine, status migrainosus, persistent aura without infarction, migrainous infarction, migraine triggered seizures. These are the ones where EEG will be found to be useful in diagnosis, just to rule out any seizure and its accompaniments. Then there is a category of probable migraine too. And in the end, let me tell you about tension type headache. Again, I've told in previously also, headache lasting from 30 minutes to 7 days, at least 2 of the following pain characteristics: pressing or tightening quality, mild to moderate, bilateral, no aggravation from walking. So this is different from migraine. All these components are different because usually bilateral, mild to moderate instead of moderate to severe, and there is no aggravation with routine activities. And plus both of the following, there should be no nausea, vomiting, photophobia and phonophobia absent, or only at least only one should be there. They can be of different types: infrequent episodic, frequent episodic, chronic tension type, or probable tension type. And tension type headache, again, this also affects about 1.6 billion people, and more common in women than in men. And despite its benign characteristic, tension type headache, especially in its chronic form, can impart significant disability on the patient as well as a burden on the society. These are the different types of tension type headache which have been described in the ICHT3 criteria. Probable, chronic, and the pathophysiology of the tension type headache is that if the muscles continue to contract for a long time, there is a decrease in blood supply and substances as lactate and pyruvate, etc., which are released. And pain occurs when these substances stimulate the nerves, and sensation of the pain occurs at the sites of the muscle attachment and ligaments. Next, instability and cervical changes are present in many of these patients. And it is described by the patient as a band which is pressing on the head, a squeezing type of a pain, both bilateral, which is present bilaterally. As far as cluster headache is concerned, I think just this much is enough, that it is present in clusters, like few episodes are occurring together, and in between there is a complete pain-free period. And the attacks, they are always associated with more than equal to one of the following, that is apsilateral semi-conjunctival injection, that is redness of the eyes, there is lacrimation, there is nasal congestion or eyelid edema, forehead and facial sweating, meiosis, and sense of restlessness. Again, this is a migraine is, as I've told you, is an overlapping illness where some of the autonomic symptoms, they can also be present in migraine as well. Some lid edema, some injection, conjunctival injection, this can be present in that also, even ptosis in some of the kinds. So therefore, the differentiation among these categories is a very thin line, and that needs to be the proper history and elucidation of the symptoms. That is the most important point. Psychiatrically speaking, we can say the rapport which we establish with the patient is the first step in which a patient is totally able to tell his history without any hesitation, and we are able to elucidate what are the how it started, how it increased, what are the associated comorbidities, what is precipitating it, and what is protective for that thing. Then there is another category of medication overuse headache, which when a headache presents more than 15 days a month and regular overuse for more than 3 months of one or more of the drugs that can be taken for acute or symptomatic treatment. So again, we have to see how many days a month is the patient using the drugs, and does decreasing the drug use help in relieving the symptoms. That is the one that diagnoses the MOH, that is medicine overuse headache. And again, I have told you there is an estrogen withdrawal headache, but which occurs in the females during the just before the menses. And caffeine withdrawal, again, this we say that usually in migraine, the patient should have a stable lifestyle. If he's having caffeine at a particular period of time, he should not forego that, because foregoing that sometimes leads to the headache. So the stability, that is very important. It's the withdrawal of that caffeine that causes the headache, migrainous headache. Then some of the psychiatric disorders, they can also lead to headache, like headache attributed to somatization disorder, headache attributed to psychotic disorders. So this I've already told you, cluster headache presents with clusters, and 15 to 180 minutes is usual time of this, with red watery eyes, drooping eyelid, congested nostril. And trigeminal neuralgias, again, they will have their particular dermatomes that will be affected, and they can be very short, less than even 1 second, like knife-like pain, electric shock-like pain that the patient describes is typical for that patient. So as far as diagnosis is concerned, I've told you it is the rapport. This is the time that we spend with the patient that is very important. And tests and all scans, they are rarely helpful, except those with aura. They need to be sometimes have to undergo EEG and sometimes MRI. CT usually is not very, not at all effective, I would say. MRI still in some of them might be useful. So the red flag signs, very important, which I must tell you that before we categorize any patient to have a primary headache, the secondary headaches, which I have told you, need to be ruled out. So sudden onset worsening headache, age less than 5 or more than 55, morning headache associated with nausea, vomiting, fever, weight loss, worsening with Valsalva maneuvers that increase ICT, focal neurologic deficits, loss of consciousness, history of trauma, CA or HIV. That's our red flag signs, and these needs secondary headache needs to be ruled out before diagnosing migraine or any other headache. And there is a scale which we use, that is the MIDA scale, Migraine Disability Assessment Score, which is a well-validated score. And we have these questions. If you we can read them out if we have time later on, about how we can judge the disability, how much disability the patient is facing. As far as treatment is concerned, the medications you can divide into the types which we use in the patient with less frequency are the NSAIDs, which we commonly use. If there is attacks are more frequent or severe, then the triptans, sumatriptan, etc., which I will be telling you later on, that is the one which we use, or ergot, which is really less used in this part of the country. Then preventive treatment, there are many medicines which we use, and there are indications, special indications for starting these drugs for a preventive therapy. There is a mixed bag of drugs which we can use for it, and it has to be like seen whether patient, what comorbidity the patient is facing. If there is a depression, there is a different one that would be helpful. If there is an epilepsy, a different one would be helpful. So it has to be adjusted to the patients and how his symptoms, how his comorbidities, how his age and all are correlated with it. The MIDAS assessment scale, which I've told you, grades it in the level minimal, mild, moderate, or severe disability. And even in tension type headache, the acute treatment is aspirin, paracetamol, and prophylactic treatment course of up to 10 sessions of even acupuncture has been tried. And other non-pharmacological methods like biofeedback, relaxation training, cognitive psychotherapy have been seen. So in brief, you can say that we have to see what is the realistic objective, okay? And there is to be treatment of the attack. And if there is attacks are too frequent, then preventive therapy has to be started. And to reduce the frequency of the attacks, as I have told you, it is a chronic and progressive illness. Progressive means if we do not treat it, the frequency and the intensity is going to increase over time. So chronification of migraine, that is called. And plus the lifestyle changes, which are very, very important, needs to be emphasized in each and every patient, needs time and energy from the part of the treating physician. So in short, we can see what are the drugs which we use. Fast acting are the aspirin, NSAIDs. And if there is too much nausea, vomiting, then the non-oral routes are preferred, like sumatriptan subcutaneous is also available. Sumatriptan nasal spray is available, and in some countries, the ketorolac nasal spray is also available. So there are different varieties which can be used. These are some medications which we use. Antiemetics, they are found to be very useful, since nausea and vomiting are the limiting factors for the patient's treatment. And preventive treatment back, in short, you can say some anti-epileptics, antidepressants, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, NSAIDs as well, and serotonin antagonists, neurotoxins, botulinum toxins, some vitamins like riboflavin and coenzyme Q10, and some herbs and some angiotensin antagonists. These are the ones which are used. So out of beta blockers, propranolol, very commonly used, timolol, nadolol, atenolol, etc. And again, that you have to see the patient profile, whether he's hypertensive, diabetic or not, we'll have to see that. So the advantages and disadvantages will be weighed according to that. The side effects can be of beta blockers can be fatigue, dizziness, depression, exercise intolerance, worsening of aura in some patients. Can have to avoid them in patients who has asthma, depression, bradycardia, Raynaud's, or overt CHF. Calcium channel blockers. Although the mechanism by which calcium channel antagonists affect is not known, vasoconstriction, prevention of platelet aggregation, and alteration in release and a reuptake of serotonin is the main one. And TCAs. Now, amitriptyline is a very nice drug, which as a psychiatrist also very commonly we use. Sometimes there is a picture where there is migraine associated with tension type, along with tension type. So amitriptyline is found to be very, very useful, and we can start very slow. But very important thing in the management is that we should start with a very low dose and titrate upwards as per the need of the patient. Instead of starting a high dose and the patient facing side effect and leaving the drug, because the most important factor in the treatment is that patients have stopped taking the treatment because of the side effects that they face. So that is a very important thing when you start the drug, that you have to taper it, tailor it according to the patient. So they are inexpensive. Once daily dosing is a very good choice. Helps with stress also, insomnia also, neuropathy also. But again, there are some side effects, some sedation, weight gain, dry mouth, urinary retention in elderly. Sometimes becomes a limiting factor. And some antidepressants, SSRIs, etc. They are also commonly used. Venlafaxine, duloxetine being the main ones. And medicine overuse headache, again, that has to be clinically diagnosed, and uh, less than 10 times a month, at least the acute treatment should be tapered down to less than 10 a month. And about anti-epileptics, sodium valproate and topiramate, these are the ones. Gabapentin also sometimes being used. And of course, if liver injury, liver enzymes are raised, then divalproate cannot be given. Topiramate, again, it has some problems like paresthesia, cognitive problems, fatigue, weight loss, and sometimes even kidney stones, metabolic acidosis, etc. Botulinum toxin, if in usually in refractory cases, some 30, 15 to 30 injections in different sites of the scalp they are given. And non-pharmacological, they should be stressed, and I think these should become more important part of our treatment. That is proper. This I have told you, the routine, stable lifestyle of a patient, that has to be emphasized a lot. Proper sleep, proper stress management, and biofeedback needs to be encouraged more and more. In psychiatry, we have this machine, and we do that. We have seen a lot of benefit of biofeedback. Cluster headache, again, sumatriptan, zolmitriptan. Sometimes steroid have to be used when the headache is too much to be bearable. And drinking a lot of water, electrolyte rich water, stress management, good posture, because neck pain and all, it's associated not only with tension type headache, but next cervical pathologies have been associated with even migraine. So in the pipeline, there are many new things that have come up. That is, for example, Cephalli, that is a machine that we use, transcranial magnetic stimulation, gamma core, and CGRP. I have told you is the pathophysiology. CGRP molecule is the one which is released. So anti-CGRP monoclonal antibodies and anti-CGRP and receptor antibodies. These are Erinumab. These are being used and probably will come to India soon. And GPANs and CGRP antagonists. So, in the conclusion, I would like to say that migraine can have a multiple presentations, as I have told you. And the challenge is just to sort out the different symptoms, the overlapping symptoms, to find out what is it that really, what is the diagnosis of the patient, that has to be clarified. And what is chronic migraine and how it occurs, that has to be recognized and has to be differentiated from medicine overuse headache. Then comorbidities like anxiety, depression, if they are associated with migraine and we leave them untreated, then on its own, you cannot hope to treat migraine as well. And migraine and tension type, I have told you, difficult to differentiate because neck pain very common in migraine attacks. Also, stress again is a migraine trigger, and migraine also can be 30-35% can be bilateral, not usually not necessarily unilateral, and sometimes not even associated with nausea, vomiting. And what is refractory migraine and the new modalities that we have now come up with. So take-home points is that when we are dealing with the patient suffering from headache, we need to make an accurate diagnosis first of all by establishing a rapport, by giving time to the patient, by understanding his needs. And not only his medical and neurological aspect, even some psychological aspects needs to be really taken care of so that holistically we can manage the patient. And over a period, it has to be patient has to be psychoeducated that is a chronic disorder and not something which can be cured with a medicine. It is just that we have to manage how to his symptoms can be decreased with the medication and prevented with the medication. So that is why it needs to be explained that it is going to take a period of time for its management. Empathy is very important, and do not deprive the patient from preventive medications. And one very important thing I left out in between is that headache diary. If a patient, we have to tell the patient to maintain a calendar, which can be, there's some apps are also available in the smartphone apps, Migraine Buddy and all. They can have a calendar and they just mark the days of the headache and what was the trigger for that. And the days of crystal clear days, the days the patient does not have any headache, these are the ones that have to be given importance to. How many days in a month were the crystal clear days? So that gives an idea of how much improvement with the medication the patient is having, so that we can again alter or maintain his treatment. A non-pharmacological can be used in combination with the pharmacological for the best management of the patient. Thank you, everyone. And any questions, if you have, I'll entertain later on.